This morning, Iran's president claimed that President Trump is aiming to bring Iran to its knees. The remarks were made during Iran's celebration marking the 46th anniversary of the Islamic Revolution. The country's president also claimed that the United States is not sincere in seeking negotiations with Tehran. I want to bring in CBS News national security contributor Samantha Vinograd, who is in Washington and joins me now to talk about all this. So Sam, how would you classify the relationship between the United States and Tehran right now?
The relationship between the United States and Iran at this moment is frosty at best. 46 years since the Iranian Revolution, the Iranian economy is under intensive pressure because of U.S. and other international sanctions, military pressure from Israel and the United States against its proxies throughout the region, and of course, Israel's direct attack within Iran itself. Energy shortages are racking the country. And Iran's nuclear program is continuing apace despite President Trump's announcement of restoring maximum pressure against Iran just last week, Vlad.
So what does the future for Iran look like during the Trump administration? One of the things I've noted, Sam, is while the president continues to talk tough on Iran, he's also used language about, quote unquote, making a deal with Iran. And not sure exactly over what, but it does sound like he's open to some type of diplomacy.
Well, when we look at Iran's nuclear program, Vlad, Iran today is closer to a nuclear weapon than they've ever been in their history. They're really at a nuclear threshold. They have more higher grade enriched uranium than ever before, and their quote-unquote breakout time to actually translate that into a weapon is shortened. Now, the intelligence community has assessed that the regime has not decided to actually build a weapon, but they're closer than they've ever been before. President Trump withdrew the United States from the nuclear agreement with Iran back in 2018. And since coming back into office, President Trump has voiced a willingness to engage with Iran on how to curtail its nuclear program. On the Iranian side, we've heard mixed messages. The president of Iran expressed a willingness to potentially engage in negotiations, but then the supreme leader, who is ultimately going to be in charge of deciding whether to engage in negotiations, took those off the table. I will add one caveat, Vlad, having worked on the early days of the Iran nuclear deal under President Obama. Whatever we are hearing publicly is definitively not indicative of private messages that may be passed behind the scenes between the United States and Iran, either directly or via intermediaries. So I would say we are seeing signals that there's an openness on both sides to at least broach the topic of nuclear negotiations.
And yet, Sam, the president has revoked the security details of several former administration members, including the CIA Director Mike Pompeo, National Security Advisor John Bolton. We know that the United States, under President Trump and President Biden, carried out very successful operations against some key Iranian targets, including military leaders there. How dangerous is it for the president to have done something like that? How dangerous is it for folks like Pompeo and Bolton and others to be out there without any protection from nefarious Iranian agents?
Well, having seen the threat assessments, but without going into classified information, there remains an ongoing threat to former National Security Advisor John Bolton, to President Trump himself, and to a few others. We know that Iran remains intent on seeking retribution for the U.S. military strike that killed Qasem Soleimani. We also know that there have been court cases against individuals directed by the regime in Iran to carry out assassinations on U.S. soil. So it is certainly a dangerous move to remove John Bolton's security detail, among others. These assassination plots, as well as Iran's nuclear program, is a regime's trump card. Under enormous pressure from the United States, Israel, and international sanctions, these are their trump cards in terms of trying to dissuade the United States, dissuade Israel from taking more advanced action. And so they will likely hold on to their ability to conduct these plots, as well as their nuclear program, long enough to test U.S. credibility when it comes to actually engaging in meaningful negotiations.
All right, Sam Vinograd for us. Always great to have you, my friend. Thank you.
Thanks, Vlad.